morning, everyone. My name is Karsten Winther. I head up sales for Vertiv in EMEA. It's my pleasure to kick off the first session in today's Digital Partner Summit. We have a lot of great content and insights for you today. I'm also very pleased to be joined for this session by a special guest, Margarete McGrath from Dell. Margarete is Dell's Chief Digital Officer. Her expertise is very aligned to the discussion over the next 20 minutes we're going to have, which will focus on what we believe is a critical topic right now: balancing digital innovation and digital resiliency, two sides of the same coin. For those of you who may not be as familiar with us as others, we've gone through a lot of changes over the last 12 months, including going public in February, as well as bringing a raft of new projects and services to the market. We also recently announced a strategic partnership with Honeywell around data center and smart building efficiency and sustainability, which is going to yield some very innovative technology over the coming months. We've also done a lot to enhance our channel products range as well as partner programs, which my colleague Vicente is going to cover in more depth later on. So stay tuned for that. So let's get to the focus of what we want to cover in this session. Clearly, the last 8 months or so have been a tough period for everyone. I don't think you need me to tell you that. However, while customer budgets have tightened and projects have been pushed back, it's all happening against a longer-term backdrop of massive investments in the digital transformation. As Gartner Group pointed out recently, top-performing enterprises are accelerating digital innovation and leveraging emerging technologies to come out stronger on the other side of the COVID-19 pandemic. Putting that in numbers, despite our global pandemic, direct digital transformation investments is still growing at a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of more than 15% from this year to 2023, and is expected to approach $6.8 trillion. And while there has been a lot of investment in public cloud services, that isn't necessarily at the expense of enterprise investments. According to a recent survey from Uptime Institute, the enterprise data is neither dead, data center is neither dead or dying. More than half of workloads are expected to remain in on-premise data centers in 2022 and beyond. As we're going to touch on in later sessions, we're also expecting strong growth in edge computing, accelerated by investments in IoT, and, of course, as it ramps up, 5G. According to IDC, the worldwide edge computing market will reach $250 billion in 2024, with a compound annual growth rate of more than 12% between last year and 2024 period. So while the short-term story may be disruption and contraction in IT budgets, the longer-term picture is much more positive. But while it's encouraging to know that the longer-term direction is towards growth and investments in digital transformation, the short to mid-term, so the track directly ahead of us, is obviously what we're all focused on. It would be good to think that there will be a nice, long, straight piece of track we can accelerate into in 2021. But as recent experience has shown, there will continue to be some sharp curves and maybe even some wreckage to steer around. As IDC spending forecasts show, spending will increase in 2021, but it will take time to return to pre-COVID levels and will be uneven across different industries and countries. So the trick is how to maintain momentum while also tackling these obstacles. Racing drivers use the heel and toe technique to balance the accelerator and brake as they change down gears. Maintaining that balance between speed and control is what we are all going to have to master. Specifically, there is a balance to be struck between digital acceleration, the gas pedal if you like, and digital resiliency, the brake which gives us the control. What do we actually mean by that? Well, there's been a lot of recent investment in specific areas of digital transformation by necessity. Remote working, remote education, telemedicine, and so on. But that increased reliance and focus on digital services come with an increased responsibility and importance, both in terms of the IT equipment and the physical infrastructure, power, cooling, that supports it. On the IT side, as a recent report from Interpol showed, there's been a spike in hacking and malware alongside the pandemic. In fact, cybercriminals are using information supposedly related to the pandemic to breach companies' defenses or exploiting vulnerabilities created by having more remote workers. And it's a similar story on the facilities side. A recent report from Uptime Institute revealed that data center operators are planning to increase the amount of physical redundancy per site to protect against future disruption from not only the current pandemic, but crucially, of course, also future pandemics and climate change. For example, at least one large cloud service provider is asking its colo partners to ensure an N+2 redundancy at all of its sites it uses. That's likely to drive continued investment in physical resiliency equipment. According to Omdia, the global UPS market, for instance, will see a 5% growth year on year next year. So in 2021, there will be a lot of customers looking to hit the gas pedal and accelerate digital transformation projects. But there's also going to be a lot of stop and start activity and a need to make sure digital projects are secure and resilient. This continued uncertainty from the pandemic, combined with implementing advanced new digital projects, will multiply the potential risk for some customers. Given that risk, they are going to be looking for trusted partners to guide them through, a skilled pit crew, if you like, to keep them in the race. At Vertiv, we see three areas where partners can differentiate. New digital technology challenge existing skill sets. That means partners can bridge gap between the known and the unknown, or let's say the current and the new. Adding value merits revenue. Partners who can add value to the customer supply chain can charge a price premium. So there's money on the table here. Customization requirements are growing. Partners who can bring customizable solutions will win on less complexity and speed. So overall, the future actually holds a lot of opportunity for all of us. And on that note, I would now like to hand over to Margarete from Dell. She's going to drill into more specific examples of how companies are becoming more digitally agile, but also digitally resilient, including developing specific cyber resiliency strategies. Over to you, Margarete.
Great to be here. Thank you so much, Karsten, for having me. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be on this, and so really looking forward to this conversation. Really what I wanted to do is just spend a little bit of time touching on some of the topics that you just touched on around agility, resilience, and that need for collaboration that you've kind of left a lasting hope for all of us thinking about kind of what's coming down the track. So really, we all know life and work has changed dramatically over the last few weeks and months. You know, we're seeing 72% of the global workforce is currently working from home. We've seen an absolute surge in contact payments and moving over from digital payments and into new kind of money payments. So that's only going to increase, and we'll see a move towards a cashless society. I think there's absolutely been a surge in the increase in use of applications, and that was moving anyway that way before the pandemic, and we've seen an acceleration in the last few weeks and months in Dell Technologies. I think the next area that's been really interesting to watch and actually get involved in is this whole surge in cloud spending, and this has increased by in around 37 to 40%, particularly with the banking institutions. And we're going to see this move again and shift increase even further over the next while. And Karsten, the one that you touched on last but not least, and I think this is really important, is that element of security and resilience as we expand, not just from a digital perspective, but IoT and the use of sensors and edge devices. Cybercrime is increasing. We are seeing an absolute surge in ransomware and phishing attacks as well. So life has changed dramatically. It has digitalized, it is accelerating, but there's some real areas to watch out for. So we are seeing on average in the UK home at the moment, they have 10 IoT devices, and we are expecting this to increase over the next 2 years. 90% of consumer good manufacturers see digital transformation as a top priority. And actually the word transformation is no longer the operative word here. It's more about acceleration more than anything else. There's going to be 30 million new connected vehicles on the road in 2020. So can you imagine? That is huge. So the rise of IoT and edge devices is just going to increase. With that brings lots of complexity around that as well, which we need to be mindful of. think the other element that's really coming through over the last 6 months in particular is every business is now a technology company. And I used to believe this before, pre-pandemic, but I really do believe this now. It's no longer just optional to have a remote working policy. Organizations are living and breathing this. Organizations are making sure that they've got a skilled digital workforce that are able to connect, to commute and work remotely and virtually. And I think businesses are no longer choosing whether they leverage data to gain better insights. They are actually embracing it and trying to understand how do they really use these insights. So overnight, businesses have been catapulted into using technology in different ways that they couldn't have imagined. And layering on top of that, I think the world of augmented reality, virtual reality, AI is just really driving a huge surge in terms of expansion around how we work and engage. The other area that we know, and you've touched on it, Karsten, already, is that area of agility. So the language that we're hearing at the moment from many of our Dell Technologies customers is around this pandemic pivot. How have they pivoted their business model from being an analog business to being a digital business? And actually, how are they going to sustain that? Those companies that were already adopting some form of digital transformation are better placed and have been better placed for the second lockdown that we're now facing. And we can see that companies that were more agile before the pandemic are 2 times as fast to release new products or services to customers and consumers. So really that element of agility is playing in, and actually with that we are seeing faster decision making. We're seeing much more speeded up kind of processes around workflows happening. People are focusing on much more value creation activities, and some of that bureaucracy has been shelved that we used to kind of spend ages talking about a business case, deciding on how we'd consult with everybody. So I really think this acceleration has changed workplace culture quite significantly over the last 6 months. Go back to the points that you touched on, Karsten, which was around resilience and trust and security. Really recent events have demonstrated a clear link between an organization's operational resilience and its ability to maintain confidence with customers and shareholders and actually the broader marketplace. And that really is coming into place. We're seeing that with a lot of banking clients, a lot of retail clients, where they have invested in resilience right across the board. And some of you may be wondering, well, what do I mean by that? And I'm not just talking about the cyber element of it. I'm talking about operational processes being right and making sure that leadership teams are aware of the risks across their organization and actually being astute and agile around how they assess those risks, what third party they've got involved, and how do they collaborate with those third parties and ecosystems as well, and making sure that that is pretty locked down and that they've got a fairly secure ecosystem in place. I think there's a really direct link we see between business resilience, operational resilience, and cyber resilience right now. And one of the things that's been really noticeable for us at Dell Technologies has been this surge kind of in data breaches at the endpoints, right? And it really is connected to the elements of IoT and edge, that actually we are increasing the vulnerabilities in our homes and in our businesses. And how do we look out for them? How do we minimize those exposure points? So we're actually seeing quite a transformation around micro-segmentation in network security and network transformation right now. And one of the things that we found is a recent study that we carried out with our friends in VMware said that 98% of UK organisations reported an increase in attack volumes over the last 12 months. This is continuing, and in fact, these stats will increase over the next while, where we'll see organisations that just were not ready. They weren't set up to be resilient in the first place. They didn't have those kind of first principles of data protection and data backup in place. And now are really trying to address this as part of lockdown number 2 to put in the resilience layers around that. So I just want to kind of end, because I know I'm going to run out of time very quickly, the elements of collaboration and the ecosystem. And one of the areas that Boston Consulting Group have reported on is a real shift in the last 6 months around collaboration. And you as channel partners, I'm sure, are wondering, what do we mean by that? Well, what we're talking about is this shift from being a vendor or a product organization to being much more of a partner. So really focusing in on value creation. And a good example of that right now is Amazon Alexa, which I'm sure many of you have in your homes and organizations, is a great example of a really true partnership model, because it really embodies elements of hardware and voice recognition functionality for the loudspeaker. It's also built on a platform for adding applications and skills that increase Alexa's service offering. And it's also a super platform that integrates with other platforms around your house, such as Sonos for smart homes. So it truly is, you know, a solution that has been built on 3 layers of partnership. The other model that I just wanted to show you as part of this is a startup that we are working with. It's a company called IntelliSide in the US. Dell Technologies has a large IoT capability. We have a large IoT security capability. And more recently, in the last few months, we have pivoted that capability to really focus on thermal vision. So right now we are working, this solution is powered by Dell Technologies, and we're rolling this out across a number of major airports in the United States to provide safety for thermal checking before you get on a plane or before you go into an airport. So again, I think it just goes back to that point around collaboration. We're seeing quite a pivot. It's the agility coming through. It's much more of a focus on value creation and providing a frictionless experience for the consumer, which Amazon Alexa does do. So I think for you all as channel partners, you're kind of wondering what's next in this acceleration journey. It really is about focusing on value creation. It's about pivoting the model. It's about talking about resilience and being resilient as well. So lots to consider, but this is a really exciting time to be in technology, and certainly a hopeful time amidst all of the doom and gloom that's out there right now. I think it is a great time to be in tech, and it's also a great time to be working on partnerships as well. So back to you, Karsten.
Thank you, Margarete. I think if I thought that we may have had a little crisis, I must admit there's a lot ahead of us that we can do.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it. Very inspiring. I would actually also encourage the audience actually to go on YouTube and listen to some of Margarete's thoughts. I've done it myself. Very inspiring. You truly know what you're talking about. So thank you very much for joining us. Great insight.
I think also, Karsten, we love working with you guys, right? I think it's going to be a really strong partnership as we develop it. And I think the time is now to really focus on evolving this partnership to drive greater value creation, you know, so we're looking forward to doing lots more with you.
Yes, thank you. So I think on that note, let's hand over to the MC to get the next session introduced. Thank you very much.